Welcome gaming fans to the LSW-Top 10 countdown of the greatest looking games consoles of all time. In the world of gaming, aesthetics can matter almost as much as gameplay. From sleek and futuristic designs to iconic retro classics, the appearance of a game console can leave a lasting impression. Join us as we count down the most visually striking gaming platforms that have graced our living rooms, gaming dens, and memories. These consoles aren't just pieces of hardware. They're works of art that have enhanced our gaming experiences and have rightfully earned their spot on this prestigious list. Number 10. Switch OLED. After the unparalleled success of the Wii, Nintendo found themselves in desperate trouble with their release of the Wii U. Between its name and the commercials Nintendo produced, many potential customers were under the impression that the Wii U was simply a tablet peripheral for the Wii. With poor sales figures, Nintendo had to come out swinging in the next generation to keep themselves alive in the console wars. It was do or die for the Japanese giants, and boy did they do. Launching the Switch in 2017, Nintendo found instant success with their sleek hybrid console. Able to function as a home console and a portable console, the Switch blew fans away with its revolution of the industry. An improved version, the Switch OLED, would debut in 2021, sporting a larger, richer screen, this time utilizing an OLED screen as opposed to LCD, and white Joy-Cons. The Switch OLED looks fantastic whether in the hand or docked in your entertainment center. The ability to interchange different colored Joy-Cons means you can always switch up the look of the Switch, enabling users to customize to their own personal taste. Nintendo needed a win, and they sure did get it with the Switch. Number 9. Xbox 360 Slim. Launching in 2005, the Xbox 360 saw huge success, helped by PlayStation's forever continuing delays of the PS3. Whilst the console sold extremely well, it wasn't the greatest piece of kit to look at. With a rather bland, dull gray plastic casing, the 360 certainly didn't scream next-gen at all. This would change in 2010 when Microsoft released the stunning Xbox 360 Slim. Far from a drastic departure from the original 360, the S model would improve the aesthetic in every way, while still staying true to the overall aesthetic of the original design. As you'd assume by the name, the 360 Slim reduced the size of the much larger 360, making the console far more attractive when placed near the TV. Replacing the dull matte gray with a beautiful gloss black, whilst making the console edgier and more striking, Microsoft clearly upped their game with the 360S. Number 8. Nintendo 64. The oldest console on our list, the Nintendo 64 defines many a gamer's childhood. Launching in 1996, Nintendo were keen to double down on the success they had seen with the SNES. Boasting a 64-bit CPU, gamers were introduced to 3D worlds the likes of which they had never seen before. Utilizing cartridge like their previous two home consoles, the Nintendo 64 would have a simple yet pleasing design. With 4 controller ports, a reset button, power button, and expansion pack section, the 64 did just enough to keep a clean look without overdoing it. It was the 3-pronged controller that was met with far more debate and interest, as the controversial controller was far more divisive amongst fans. As typical with Nintendo, a plethora of color options were available, with some of the rarest fetching huge fees on the aftermarket today. Number 7. Nintendo Wii. Jumping ahead a couple generations from the N64 now, following on from the moderate success of the GameCube, Nintendo knew the best route was to go back to the drawing board and give up attempting to compete with Sony and Microsoft on the power front. Originally named Revolution, the Wii would launch in 2006, taking the world by storm with its game-changing motion controllers. The lack of power meant the Wii could be much smaller than its rivals, the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and its far more budget-friendly price tag meant almost everyone had a Wii sat by their TV. A small, glossy, compact white unit with a stunning blue LED around the self-loading disc slot, not only did the Wii change the game with its innovative controls, but it looked great doing it as well. There's no doubt the Wii leaves behind a truly legendary legacy. Number 6. Sega Dreamcast. Looking back, the Sega Dreamcast was far ahead of its time in terms of capabilities. With a built-in modem, the console would be the first to include internet connectivity, which certainly wasn't commonplace back in 1999 when it was released outside of Japan. The Sega Dreamcast would primarily come as a white unit, and similar to the Nintendo 64, featured two buttons, this time an open and power button and 4 controller ports. Speaking of the Dreamcast controllers, the controllers could utilize the VMU, the visual memory unit, which was a small peripheral used mainly as a memory card unit that would slot into the controller. The VMU could also display game information, be used as a handheld gaming device, and even connect to specific Sega arcade machines. Players had the ability to use the VMU to call plays in NFL 2K or raise virtual pets in Sonic Adventure. Although why Sega thought it was wise to put the cable at the bottom of the controller is anyone's guess. Despite the Dreamcast's strong attributes, it simply couldn't compete with the popularity of the PlayStation 2 and would ultimately be the last console ever released by Sega. Number 5. Original Xbox. Back at the turn of the millennium, it seemed that no one could take on gaming juggernauts Sony, Sega, and Nintendo. The gaming scene was far too crowded as it was. Then Microsoft decided to throw their hat into the ring in 2001. Originally called the DirectX box, due to its usage of a variation of Microsoft's DirectX as well as Windows, the original Xbox would jump straight into the scene packing serious gaming power. With the tech juggernaut behind it that was Microsoft, the Xbox may have been the only console that was able to jump in and thrive in such a crowded market. The success of the Xbox was aided with a launch lineup that included Killer App, Halo Combat Evolved, a game that would go on to be one of the highest-grossing game series of all time, and a massive pull for Microsoft to convert rival fans into jumping onto the Xbox bandwagon. And let's face it, it also helps when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of the biggest stars on the planet, helps to reveal the console. Having a futuristic look, with a large X and green Xbox logo on top with hints of silver, the console, despite being over 20 years old, still looks fantastic today. Microsoft also listened to their fans by reducing the size of the original controller, which clearly must have been made for giants, and replacing it with the more human-sized Controller S. For our money, the Xbox was by far one of the greatest-looking consoles ever, and no doubt the best-looking console from the 6th generation. Number 4. Nintendo DS. Despite already dominating the handheld market, 2004 would see Nintendo add to their dominance with the Nintendo DS. The DS, standing for dual screen, as the handheld would implement the rapidly growing touchscreen functionality. The touchscreen would make gaming far more interactive for players, as they'd use the stylus to manipulate gameplay. With its edgy and unique-looking clamshell design, the DS would be as pleasing to the eye as it was innovative. Originally, it was intended to live alongside the Game Boy Advance family as a sister console. However, its immediate popularity, married with the fact it could play GBA games, resulted in the DS quickly becoming the successor to the Game Boy Advance. The DS family would go on to be the best-selling handheld of all time, selling around 155 million units since its launch. And it did so in style. Number 3. Xbox One. The only consolation of the debacle that was the Xbox One's announcement was the look of the console itself, a return to form from the computer giants after the not-so-attractive 360, a stylish and elegant two-tone design. There's no doubt the console is on the larger side, but that's nothing that can't be overlooked when considering the beauty of the console itself. Launched the same year as its rival, the PS4, the Xbox One would at least win the war of aesthetics against its Sony counterpart. The Xbox One would also improve on the already highly celebrated 360 controller, adding even better comfort and ergonomics for those long gaming sessions. 2 revisions would arrive later, the One S and the One X, significantly reducing the size and improving power whilst also adding 4K support, yet they never quite matched the first Xbox One for looks. Number 2. PSP. After years of domination from Nintendo in the handheld market, Sony would eventually decide to show their hand in 2005, releasing the highly anticipated PlayStation Portable. For us, the PSP is undoubtedly the best-looking handheld of all time. Sleek, professional, and classy in design, the Sony handheld would make a massive splash upon its launch. With Wi-Fi built in, internet access, online gaming, and the ability to watch TV, movies, and listen to music, whilst boasting graphics close to that of the PS2, there was no doubt that the PSP was by far the most powerful handheld ever seen when it arrived on the market. The console would even herald in the arrival of a brand new multimedia format, the Universal Media Disc. UMDs were small discs protected in a plastic casing. Films and TV shows were quickly released on the new format, as well as the PSP games themselves, offering owners a variety of ways to find enjoyment through the console. Sony were so proud of their portable creation that they even dubbed it the Walkman of the 21st century. The PlayStation Portable would find huge success, with the PSP selling over 80 million units, although that was only around half of its rival, the Nintendo DS. The PSP would have a successor in the form of the PS Vita, but with a lack of support almost immediately upon release. It couldn't match the success of the first portable PlayStation. Number 1. PS3. Oh boy, this one is going to be controversial, but we're sticking to our guns here. The greatest looking console of all time is the PlayStation 3. Having the immense pressure of following on from the best-selling console ever, the PlayStation 2, the PS3 certainly had massive shoes to fill. One of its big selling points was its ability to play the latest high-definition format, Blu-ray. The fact the console had a built-in Blu-ray player would also prove a massive aid in the HD format wars. First shown off in 2005, Sony's third home console would be by far their most attractive. Originally shown off in silver with that boomerang controller, the PS3 would come in 3 colors, black, white, and silver, all equally as gorgeous as the other. With a beautiful gloss finish, silver trim, and the iconic Spider-Man font, the PS3 takes its rightful spot at the top of our list. The powerhouse unit would struggle early on with significant delays across Europe, leaving many fans frustrated, and also helped the Xbox 360 to gain a significantly lead in the war, a lead that would take Sony years to claw back and eventually overtake. The console would also see struggles with its bespoke cell processor. Despite being a monster in regards to power, it was incredibly difficult for developers to work with, and with many games being cross-platform, most games couldn't utilize its true power due to having to be released on both PlayStation and Xbox. Later in the console's lifespan, developers would finally get to grips with the cell processor, and games, especially PlayStation exclusives, would finally show off the true capabilities of the PlayStation 3, proving the console to look just as good on the screen as it did sat next to it. There is no doubt in our mind, the PlayStation 3 stands proud as the greatest looking console of all time. There you go, gamers, our top 10 best looking consoles ever. With a list as subjective as this, we know many will have differing opinions. What order would you have put the consoles in? Did your favorite not make the list? Be sure to let us know down in the comments below. There's no right or wrong here. These consoles have brought joy to many of us all throughout the world. Like and subscribe to keep up to date with our latest top 10s and more gaming content. Till next time, game on!